Welcome in, everybody. Season 2 off to a hell of a start. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. You are going to enjoy today's show if you haven't already enjoyed it up to this point. This is going to change the flow for you because Carl is someone I've been following for a while. I'm really loving what's going on here. I can't wait for the conversation to take place. But as always, before we get to that conversation, we must thank today our grateful sponsor, King Solomon Nutrients. Look, if you don't know Damien Solomon and his company, you need to. Dude's got over 2 decades of experience making things happen and using science to back his concepts. So everything he does is top notch. You need to check him out. Hydro, soil, makes no difference. Dude has the best results. And on top of that, my favorite part I'm not a home grower of anything fun because I live in a prohibitionist state, but I do grow tomatoes. And if it makes the kind of difference it makes on my tomatoes, this 2-part system is going to blow your mind, especially when you see how much it costs. There's no one better. If you're not down with the king, head over to ksolomonag.com and start being down with the king. All right, Carl, man, I'm really looking forward to this. Trade Roots co-founder. Carl, first, let's start with this. I know we're going to get into your origin story, but I first have to ask you, what is going on with your prosthetic leg, dude? It's everywhere. It's everywhere, and I'm sure by the time this airs, the secret will have been out. But I'm weirded out. I'd like to know just briefly, really briefly, what's going on here?
So, and thanks for having me, Sean. I feel honored to be here. So this started with Massachusetts. So we're probably the smallest vertically integrated operator, the first and one of 2 social equity vertically integrated operators in Mass. And the state has 340 some odd retailers, 120 some odd cultivators, and 110 product manufacturers, right? So it's a really small industry. And the rumors in this industry, Sean, are wild. And I mean, I've heard all sorts of rumors about my company and all sorts of stuff. And we were out at an event with that we had with Church Cannabis Co. And sitting there with my friend Janine McKenzie, who owns Beachgrass Topicals, which is a great micro business topical manufacturer in Mass. I'm 47 with arthritis, and it's the only thing that keeps me going. But Janine and I were sitting there, we're talking about rumors, and she's like, "Yeah, I heard a rumor the other day that you had a prosthetic leg." Now, Sean, I'm the guy who wears shorts from March till October. Now, I did lose a toenail recently, so maybe I've been limping, and but hysterical. And then, so I made that post, and then we actually had the executive, probably you saw on LinkedIn, the former executive director of the Cannabis Control Commission, continuing to perpetuate this rumor. So I'm glad now for all of your audience, I do in fact fortunately have both legs.
Okay, well, I thought so. So I thought everything was cool. I didn't think it was a big deal, but it caught fire as the internet does from time to time, Carl. And so it had me thinking, all right, so down to the case of business. So on the show, we like to go ahead and get into everything about your origin story, how you found it, where you found it. So tell us, Carl, where does your journey with this incredible plant start?
Yep. So unfortunately, my business partner, Jesse, couldn't be on this interview because he's much more interesting and his story is fascinating. Mine's a little less so, or much less so. So I first tried the plant on junior prom and, took that first hit. And, what we learned in drug ed was that pot's bad, but it's only bad because once you do it, you want to try heroin. Yeah, right. And I took a hit and went, I want a pizza. And also they lied to me. Yeah. And it was like, oh, no. So, consumed the plant throughout college. After I played music prior to my previous career. And then, I lived in New York City. There were delivery services. You got those overpriced cubes of, 2.2 grams for $60 or whatever it was.
Nice.
But I never thought this was, and I'll be honest, I never thought this was a real business. I joke with my business partner, who we're social equity because he did do time for cannabis. That I joke that, up until 2017, I thought this was a business for criminals and children, which now looking at this, if he's the criminal, I don't know what that makes me.
Yeah.
But but even then, like, so I was a buy-side trader on Wall Street, never sold anything, was a prop trader, stat arb, algo, event-driven stuff, lived in New York, had offices in New York and Miami. And, like, even like the first pubcos, like 2013, those early RTOs, I mean, all respectfully garbage. So really didn't think of this as a, you sell weed in college for whatever, but then you get serious, right? And so I also believed up until 2017 that medical cannabis, so when I'm sick, I'd rather be high and sick than not high and sick. And if I were really sick, I'd probably want to be really high. And that's okay. And I don't believe that if medicine shouldn't feel good or any of that stuff. But as far as like the medical benefits, I was uneducated. And so I had an opportunity in 2017 to invest in a grow in Oregon, put together a small group, went out there at the same time, met my business partner, Jesse, in that process. And actually his illicit market, legacy market partner, was a guy who I grew up with. So that was sort of that connection. And so put together an investor group, invested in this farm, went out there back in 2017 and realized it wasn't being run well. Shouldn't get bigger, should get smaller. But I wake up 4:30 in the morning for my trading days. My business partner, Jesse, his day job was construction. So he gets up crazy early too. So while everybody else was sleeping, we're walking around this 56-acre farm and I'm just picking his brain. Just tell me what's wrong here, what's good, what's this, as I'm trying to learn, right? And so, one of the last days he looks at me, he's like, hey, Carl, it's going legal in Mass for rec. Why don't we move this mountain to Wareham? And I looked at him like, Jesse, what the fuck is a Wareham? I live in New York City. Like, no, this is like my week. And we realize this isn't going well, but no. And then plane lands and my sister picked me up and we thought my mom had a little tear in her shoulder. It turned out to be a 7-centimeter primary mass, had metastasized everywhere. And so, within a couple of weeks, they had my, 4'10", 106-pound mother on like 80 megs of oxy. And, I'm very fortunate that opiates hadn't touched my life before that. So didn't really know what that was about. And, she was drooling on us. I mean, it was like I'm dating myself here, but it was like train spotting, and so we decided as a family to move her off. Connecticut had a caregiver program. And so we got her off, or medical program. So we got her off that. And, it didn't save her, but we got her back for 5 months. And like, she was present and there are memories that I'll never forget. And so that was really then it was like, okay, well, I left New York, moved in, helped through the transition to your next place. And so, yeah, I got to see the medical benefits, got to talk to nurses and all of that stuff. And then Jesse and I started this, and I, helped write the business plan from hospice and hospitals and, all of that stuff. And that was 6 years ago. And now I definitely know what the fuck a Wareham is.
Yeah, the lessons in this industry, they come hard, they come fast. Obviously I want to go back to something that you started with though, on the journey, because I think it's come up. It's definitely come up more than once this season. I think it's going to keep coming up. People in the age range, right? So the age range for me, people between 40 and 50. When I say age range, that age range are dare people. Okay. That is what we were raised on. That is what we went through school on. That is what, I think it was Nancy Reagan made us believe, whoever, I think it was her, that's how it worked. And I had the same reaction you did, where it was like, wait a second. I don't want to go do heroin because I don't even like needles. That shit scares the hell out of me. But I want to keep doing this for sure. And then I was a migraine sufferer, and they had me on a million pills that were just killing my insides, giving me an ulcer. And finally, I was like, dude, I got to give this up. I got to go to this. And I remember meeting with a board of neurologists in Chicago. We're like, how dare you? You could not possibly use an illicit plant. I'm like, illicit my ass. Like, it's only illicit because you don't want to understand it. You don't want to take the time. And that can be hard, right? But what you talk about with your mom, that's the stuff we hear a lot of. And we always have. My wife and I were growers in Colorado 2008, 2009, 2010 on the medical side as caregivers. And it was life-changing, to be able to help people whose kids had cancer, people who couldn't afford it, were sick themselves, whatever it was, because you kind of summed up my thought, which was, if I'm going to be sick, may as well be high, may as well find a way to get high. And now now you can do it all kinds of different ways, right? Like you don't have to just smoke it. I'm an OG. I'm a smoker kid. I'm a flower kid, no doubt. But now it's like, hey, got a cough, throat hurts? Take a gummy, 2 gummies, go to bed, whatever. So there is a way to make it happen. Carl, along this way, because as you said, you view the industry as, kids and criminals, right? And so, I was a young, entrepreneur who found his way into it. I've been in the car business my whole life, but the side hustle of the car business was certainly, moving the plant. And so I had my history. I did my stuff, and I heard that a lot from people saying, "Man, when are you going to grow up?" And I thought to myself, this is a business. You're not seeing it, because I was an entrepreneur at heart, right? I grew up. My mom was an entrepreneur, so I saw it firsthand. How did you reconcile that, or did you what did it take for you to move past that? What was the aha moment for you? Was it being out in Oregon? Was it seeing it that way? Was it the day with Jesse? What really triggered you there to say, all right, this is a business?
Good question. I mean, it was all of it. So, I mean, certainly, building early models and all of that, even with 280E when prices were they were, made sense. Really, I mean, so it was a couple of things. My job on Wall Street, for almost 2 decades was started as a glorified day trader before there were day traders, right? And so high frequency trading was, I could type faster than you, right? And then the computers came, the algos came in, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember one day I was at a family barbecue, and I'm saying my little cousin, he's now like 35. But at the time, he was young, and he's like, Carl, what do you do? And it was like, well, I'm a trader. He's like, what does that mean? Yeah. And I'm like, well, I buy and sell things. He's like, well, what do you make? It was like, well, nothing. He's like, so what do you do? I'm like, I don't know, kid. I provide liquidity. Like, shut up, But I realized I didn't, and I loved it for the most part. But I also didn't make anything. And Sean, the other day, it was maybe 6 months ago, I was taking a look at all of our sales since the beginning, right? And so vertically integrated, we have a 7,000 square foot craft grow, produce about 2,200 pounds a year of flower that tests. So MCR Labs in Mass is the big testing lab, and they put out numbers every month about averages and records and all of it. And so, we probably cultivate 22 strains probably right now in active rotation. And they test, 28% higher in THCA than state average, but more impressively, 57% higher in terpenes. We had a strain test the other week, Sean, at 5.89% terpenes. We didn't believe it, so we sent it back, came back at 6.1. And so tons of flavors. We have a lab that produces, I don't think you've ever met somebody who says they're the second best cultivator in the state. I will say I put us, of the 120 some odd cultivators, there are 21 that can do what we do, of different sizes, different scales, and all of it. On the hydrocarbon side, live resin, where I'd say we're number 2. I'd love to say we're number 1. Love to be there, but we're nipping on heels. Yeah. And Sean, I embarrassingly totally lost why I'm going down this path.
Don't worry about it. No, don't worry about it at all. Because it's all the same. The question is the aha moment. The question is what you see for things. And the point is now, for me, is that you leave a day trading job because there wasn't, as you said, it wasn't a bad job, but I can see passion already. The way that you talk about your product, the way you talk about what you're doing, because that's what this should be about for the most part, right? I do this show for passion. We have great sponsors, which is awesome, but that breaks, me even on the girls I pay to do the work on the back half. So it's not like there's something, immaculate happening here, but there's passion, the stories people tell. But I want to circle us back really fast to the fact that you are more than willing to say number 2, because you use numbers, you use data, you see what the realities are, but you know what it's going to take for you to get to 1. And that, for me, as a data nerd, I appreciate that. I appreciate you being honest about being number 2. Not enough people even talk about mistakes, Carl, in their businesses, which is amazing, because I'm a baseball nerd, and the best to ever play baseball will fail at their job 70% of the time as hitters. how no one else makes a mistake every other day is it's really wild. And it's not that you've made a mistake. That's not what I mean. Just the fact that you're willing to admit of not perfection is a breath of fresh air to me, because let's face it. I mean, nobody is perfect, and most of us are far less perfect than we even put on.
Very true. I guess where I was going with the production was my little cousin, like, finally I'm producing something. And so where I was going with produce flour, all the oils, manufacturing services and all of it. And I was going through the SKUs and just realizing the hundreds of thousands of SKUs we've sold. How many meals tasted better? How many interactions with family and friends were better? How many concerts sounded better? Movies were funnier, like all of that stuff. And so that was sort of like, it's been there was no aha moment, but it's just been a gradual thing of how great it is to build something. And to clarify, number 2 on the live resin side, I'm going by quality, not by total sales.
Again, that means you're a man of data either way, because you know what number 1 is either way. Whether it's tasting or looking at a number in a board, right? You know that you're willing to admit it, and that to me is the fresh part of it. That's what I like to hear from people. So Carl, you get started in this. You guys are running trade routes. Everything is legal. How is it? Because I love the whole preview thing y'all got going on there, right? Where you got like the glass wall. I don't know if people walk through the dispensary. I've never been there, right? But I don't know how it's engaging. But it reminds me of one of my favorite Chicago restaurants that always it was all cooked right in front of you. And they'd always say, if they're behind a wall, you should worry about it, And I thought, yeah, I agree. And so seeing that, was that a part of the concept from the beginning? Is it a matter of transparency? Was it an idea of tourism and something different? How did we land on that?
So you're talking about the window in our dispensary into one of our gardens. So there are 7 people who will swear, including me, that it was our idea. Sean, I have a memory of looking at the plans in Jesse's house in his basement and going, the grow room is right by the dispensary. Why don't we put in a window? I would swear on a stack of Bibles that's true. There are 6 other people, including Jesse, who would say the same. We are also, funny story about this.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to explain to me why you just told me that there are 7 people who doesn't believe this.
No, I mean, I guess probably the 7 original people that think that it was their idea.
Oh, okay. All right. So there's, okay. All right.
Yes, we're all taking credit. There are 7 people in that building that will take credit for that idea.
All of you independently. There's not like another group of 7 people who think it was their idea. No.
Each one of us will say it's our idea.
Got it. Okay. All right. Cool. That is far less dramatic than I was making it up in my head as you were saying that. Okay. Funny story about the 7. Let's go.
So I was actually on the phone, this goes back a number of years ago, with Kyle, one of the founders of Northeast Alternatives, which is a regional MSO in the area. And so we opened up cultivation and manufacturing first before we opened up retail. And I was explaining to him, it was during COVID, explaining to him that, we actually, because I know there was a dispensary in Colorado that has a window. And so I was, I think, 45 at the time, 44. And, was saying, like, we're actually the first dispensary east of the Mississippi that has a window into a grow. And that's when he said, actually, I opened up one in Michigan that has a window. And that's when I realized, Sean, at 44, that I did not know that Michigan was east of the Mississippi. So
you got to get out more, Carl.
Anyway, here nor there. So, and I do need to, being a cannabis founder, things like vacation and non-business travel really aren't in my schedule.
As an entrepreneur and founder in general, I think I hear it every time from my wife. I'm like, hey, let's go here. And she's like, for what work now? And I'm like, and it's just like, well, I want to do both. There's music we can go see, but it's always like, yeah, but what's the work you want to do there? Why are we really going to California for a week? And I'm like, yeah, okay. So I totally get you. All right. So you realize that this is okay. Love it.
So we put in the window. The idea it was a couple of things. One, transparency, right? Like, so Jesse has instilled, and this was, I will give him this, I'll give him a lot of things. But, he would talk about craft cannabis. And if he were here, we joke back and forth because I picked his brain 8 ways to Sunday. What does that mean? Right. And really what it comes down to for us is doing the right things always, even when nobody's looking.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So never cut a corner, none of that stuff. And so the idea, and especially, in Massachusetts, you had, and this was after we came out the window, but the whole True Leaf thing and Holyoke and all of that. And you have, and weird testing stuff that goes on.
I mean,
all
the
of that
testing stuff is crazy. The whole thing is, it's whack. I mean, you can go to different states, get different results, talk to different people. It's really, really crazy, Carl. It's crazy.
It is. So our whole thing was, okay, well, you know what? Let's show you. Now, to be fair, we didn't quite realize what a risk that was when we did it, because customers see everything. And I mean, it's even like, early on, they had me working back, helping defol and stuff. And you forget that you're on the inside of the zoo.
Yeah.
So like everyone's looking at you and you're in there, and because of the light difference and the windows tinted, you can't see the other way. But it's, customers love it. And, it's even like our packaging. We're the only packaging in Massachusetts that's compliant, that you can actually see the bud through the packaging. And so it's that kind of stuff that's just, let's show you. It's even, my LinkedIn and Trade Routes LinkedIn, it's meet the team. And I think part of the ethos that we're trying to portray is, I love when people meet the team and go, holy shit, you guys are exactly like you are online. And it's like,
Carl, that's what I get to say, right? Is like, that's why I love doing this, because everyone I know in cannabis right now is because of LinkedIn. I don't know. It's the safest place for anyone in the cannabis industry to currently be right now. I know there are a couple of upstarts trying to make their way. I get it. That's cool. But right now, today, the biggest network of people is there.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, I go through it and I think to myself, all right. And Carl, you don't do a ton of video. So you have a lot of pictures of you and what you do and interact, and then you write the same way you speak. And so, it's you. It's not some robot writing Carl's posts or doing Carl's work, and if there is, then bravo, Carl, you found a good robot. But you come across as you write. So that authenticity is important to me as someone who runs a company that helps people with their social media in, obviously very legal markets where they're not, blacklisted for everything that they say. We know that meet the team. We know that show the product without selling the product is the way to get to your consumer's heart. I don't think there's any faster way to do it. Every time I see a Trade Routes post, I always wish my phone was scratch and sniff. Every single time I see it, I'm like, dude, I want to just be able to crack the lid on my phone. Like, anybody trying to do something impressive, do that. You know what I mean? Show me how cool that is. Stop making new phones. Make the phones we got do cooler shit. But so, Carl, what again, packaging, being able to see the bud by accident, intentional. How do we land here?
Interesting. So actually, can we shift to a different question? We're with something with the commission right now, so I have to take a little turn on that.
No, great. That's the beauty of an organic show. We'll make a move away from it. Then let me ask you this: is the window something that people is it an Instagram spot, Carl? I guess is what I'm asking you. When people come to the dispo, is it a spot they're setting up? Are they even allowed to do that? Is that a thing?
They're allowed to, as long as there's no other customers in the shop.
Sure.
Because we're not medical, so there's not the HIPAA stuff. What I do find fun is I'll stand out in retail and you'll watch customers come in. And we are trained as people to look down at the display cases.
Yeah.
And so you'll watch people come in and immediately they're looking down, and then 10 seconds to a minute later, look up and go, oh shit. And wait, that's real. It's like, yep, it is. And we keep those. So we actually have that flower room scheduled 12 and 12 during our dispensary hours from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. It's a different schedule than the rest of our flower rooms. And we keep those blinds up all the time. So when we're cleaning, when the room's turning, when we're defolding, all of it, like you get to see the entire process. And that really is super cool.
It is very cool.
So yes, if anyone is ever down in Wareham by Cape Cod, please stop by. It's
please check it out. I mean, I tell you right now, I mean, I just told the wife before I came out to do your show, I was like, look, we got to go to Boston. It's like a really easy flight from our house. So we got to get out that way. So don't be surprised, Carl, if I make my way out there and I let you know I'm coming down. I would love to see the operation. When you talk about being, showing the whole thing, do you ever, I have, and maybe you've showed it before, but do you ever get into posting about the manufacturing side of what you do? Showing those time-lapse videos or kind of getting into any of the other parts of the business with that kind of meet the team, meet the product idea?
So manufacturing's a little challenging with what I can show. Certainly I could go deeper into weed porn videos. So my job at Trade Roots, I'm board chair and do some of that stuff in IR and all of that. But I'm in charge of brand, which I am uniquely qualified for because I was a buy-side trader that never had any customers, never advertised. So I'm learning as I go. Doing some of those sexy videos and all of that. Given my other responsibilities, I haven't had as much of the time to lean into. I always say I'm not the marketing person that Trade Roots deserves, but I am the one we currently can afford.
See, Carl, that's the part of it. That's the honest part of people don't realize that this is what businesses have to do today. They have to do it on their own. So I do my company's social media. I'm the one posting on LinkedIn. I'm the one who's out here doing stuff. Some of the cannabis stuff, no, but I mean, yeah, Carl, that's a real thing to not have the time. And again, I love the level of honesty around the fact that it's like, look, this is my job. Doesn't mean, my mom used to always say, fake it till you make it, which somehow has become negative to people, but I still believe in that because at the end of the day, I got to keep figuring out ways to make the job happen, right? Make it happen, do what I do. So Carl, how do you balance all that, dude? I mean, you're running the front, the marketing. I mean, where do you kind of start and stop your day?
So I start my day at 4:30. Okay. And I have a sauna at home and I do that and try to old man work out a little bit. And I've been trying to meditate and all of that stuff. Have a home office, and then I remember how I said, no time for vacations. Well, actually I did go on vacation about a year ago, a little over a year ago, and came back and I lost my office in the building. So now you're seeing my home office working from home. So, my days are meetings, phone calls, emails, all of that stuff. As how do I do it? I don't. My team does. It's, when you say it takes a village, when they say it takes a village, it takes a village. When it's actually, this is really funny. I'm sure from LinkedIn, Peter Sue.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a friend of mine came and took a picture in front of that window, right? And so we're sort of known for that. And Sean, I look so awkward. I have my hand in my pocket, my head's tilted weird, but it's this weird hand thing I do. And she posted the picture and I reposted it. And, my comment, just the comment on the post is, why do I do this weird thing with my arm? And Peter commented on it and he's like, actually, there's a whole psychology behind that. So I Googled it. And apparently, if you put your hand in your pocket with your thumb out, that's a sign of confidence. If you put your hand in your pocket with your thumb tucked in but the hand out, that's a sign of insecurity. And that makes total sense because when people want to take pictures with me in front of that window, I'm entirely insecure because they've just showered a whole bunch of compliments on me that I didn't build any of it. Like, I helped the process to set the stage for incredibly talented, wonderful people to do like the flower. Like, I had nothing to do with any of that. Yeah. So I get so awkward that it's like, okay, I'm standing here, but no, we built this. I didn't build this. So yeah, it's the team.
See, that's a mark of a true leader. And people always tell me all the time, I'm a leader. I've never really seen it that way, but that's the same way I approach my team. It's like, look, I got us here. Sure. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Without you guys, we wouldn't actually be here for as long as we've been here. Right. When you start doing things 5, 7, 8, 10 years, my company's been around for 11 on the auto side. It's a lot, man. It's a lot to be proud of. People got to celebrate the small wins. So, all right, Carl, we have gotten to the point of the first half wrapping up. This is when I like for you to let the audience know what we are going to be talking about on the second half. So, Carl, drop the teaser line. What are we talking about in the second half?
Let's talk about integrity in cannabis.
Ooh, wow.
So we could talk about remediation. We could talk about THCA flower. We could talk about D8, D9, all the other Ds. Let's go in there.
All right. We're going to integrity in cannabis. This is going to be a fiery second half. You are not going to want to miss it. As always, thank you so much to everyone watching. Thank you to King Solomon Nutrients for being the best in the business at what they do. 2 decades of horticulture experience. No one does it better than Damon and his team. From hydro to soil, the results are always going to be the best. Go ahead, head down to ksolomonag.com for more information on the best products around. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to join us for the second half. Cannabis integrity is what the topic is. You're not going to want to miss it. Thanks a lot.